What's up guys, and welcome back to another Yu-Gi-Oh video. So today's video is going to be all about foil line errors. For those of you who don't know, a foil line error is an error that occurs on glossy print cards where there's a line running down the foil. And it can either appear just as a single line or sometimes as kind of a thicker bar, depending on what kind of error it is. That's what we're going to be talking about today. So first of all, just going into what a foil line error is and kind of how it comes about. There are a lot of different theories as to how these lines happen. I've heard some people say that it's to do with the foil sheets, so like the foil layer within the card, the way that's applied to the sheets of cardboard, there being a division where one sheet attaches to the next, and it's not in the same place as where the cardboard sheets are divided from each other. I don't personally believe that theory for a couple of different reasons, which I can go into. One thing is the fact that you can get multiple errors sometimes close together on a single card, which just shouldn't be possible if it's a sheet division, because you would never get a sheet that's only like 1 millimeter thick or whatever it might be. And there are other reasons as well to do with how some of the lines look, with there being ink bleed coming out of the line. So if I show you this Dark Magician here, you should be able to see that if we zoom in on the line, it's a very thick line, but there's also bits of dark ink kind of bleeding out of the line. And what that shows you is that it's part of the printing process rather than part of the process of the actual cardstock being put together in the first place. So that the foil sheet, before any printing is done on it, would look completely normal. And then during the printing process, which is divided into first the ink on the card, which gives it the color and everything like that, and then the foiling, which shows, it essentially tells the card which parts should be shining through, like the foil on this Dark Magician, which parts of the foil layer actually should just remain unfoiled, essentially, like in the other parts of the card. So I don't know exactly what the error is during that process. It's probably something to do with the stamping machine for the foil not being able to apply all of the foil for the entire sheet at the same time. So it has to stamp multiple times in different locations, and then you get little errors with the way it joins together. I assume it would be something like that, but I don't know exactly, so we'll just leave it there. But yeah, so that's what these errors are. That's kind of roughly how they come about. Now we're going to go into a bit more about everything there is to know about them in terms of the different varieties of foil line errors that you can get, how the errors influence the grading process if you send them off to get professionally graded, and everything like that. So foil line errors come into two main categories in terms of how collectors differentiate them. And these two cards here are an example of those two different varieties. So the first one, which is this Dark Magician, this is the simple foil line error where essentially it's just a line on the card. And it doesn't do anything to the way that the foil pops. So you can see no matter which angle I put this Dark Magician from, the foil kind of just appears as it would do, and then there's this line which kind of breaks it up, but it doesn't reflect differently on either side of the line. Whereas if we look at this Flame Swordsman, from some angles, it probably does appear as though the foil all reflects the same way. But you can see if we tilt the card certain ways, then you start to see different colors appearing depending on which side of the line you're looking at. So sometimes one side will look lighter and the other one will look darker. These are generally the more desirable kinds of foil line errors because they have more of an impact on the aesthetics of the card. This Flame Swordsman, by the way, is my favorite foil line error that I own, just because of the fact that the line actually lines up almost perfectly with the sword in the artwork, so it really creates a cool effect. But yeah, so those are the two main classes of foil line errors. While I'm at it, I should just say that these errors only exist for glossy print cards. So glossy print is both first edition and unlimited, and you can get it for Legend of Blue Eyes White Dragon and for Starter Deck Kaiba and Yugi. You sometimes get vertical printing errors on other prints of cards as well, but those are not the same kinds of lines that we're talking about, and they're not of the same interest to collectors, generally speaking. So yeah, moving on to the gradability of these lines, kind of how they affect the condition. Personally, I would not say that they affect the condition of the card, because if you look at the card under direct lighting, there's absolutely no 3D profile of the line. It's not any kind of condition defect or anything like that. So in my opinion, it should not affect the grade unless it's really placed in a way that it, ruins the eye appeal of the artwork or something like that. But unfortunately, whether you grade these with PSA or BGS, they do tend to dock the grade a lot on these. So you can see this Flame Swordsman has a 395 subgrades because for the most part it's in great shape, but it has an 8 on surface. And the only reason for that 8 is the foil line error. But they are inconsistent as well, so this Dark Magician, if anything, you'd say this has a kind of thicker and more noticeable foil line error, but that actually got a 9 on surface. So it's very hard to predict how the card's going to grade. Generally, I do not bother grading these errors anymore, just because it's very hard to know what they're going to get, and I don't really like sending a card in and getting an 8 on surface, or whatever it might be. Or equally with PSA, you can get a PSA 7, PSA 8 sometimes just because of that foil line error. So just to go over a few other examples of the cards, because so far we've only looked at those two. Here's a Curse of Dragon, first edition, with a foil line error pretty much in the middle. One thing which you do sometimes get on lines, and hopefully you can see it with this one, is that you kind of get some messy imperfections in the line. So with those other lines, especially the Flame Swordsman, it's pretty much just a straight line. This one has little kind of rivets in it where the line just isn't quite perfect. And again, that's something to do with the ink sort of bleeding around a little bit during that printing process where the foil is applied to the card. Then this guy, the Dragon Champion, is something I wanted to show you because whereas most foil line errors do appear just as a line, especially on secret rares where foil line errors are more common, you actually get these kind of bars. So you should be able to see, hopefully, it's not that easy to show on camera, but there's a kind of dark section to the foil which is around about 3 millimeters thick. It's a pretty wide area of the foil, and all the way down that area reflects darker. And that's because there are essentially two foil lines, one on the left and one on the right of that bar. And in between it, the foil reflects darker, and on either side, it reflects as normal. And then just to show that you can get these in Unlimited as well, here's a Flame Swordsman Unlimited foil line error to match that first edition we had earlier. This one, as well as being the kind where one side reflects darker than the other, also has a kind of bar to it. It's not just a single line. You can see that there's some thickness to that line compared to some of the earlier examples. So hopefully this kind of just gives you an idea of the variety of ways that foil line errors can be exhibited. This is the last one I'm going to be showing in this video. This is a Dark Magician glossy unlimited print from LOB. And again, you can see that it has that foil line error, and if we find a good angle, you can see that one side reflects darker than the other side. So yeah, that's the majority of what I wanted to talk about in this video. Foil line errors have definitely been getting a lot more attention, I'd say this year especially. A lot more collectors going after them, whether it be for complete foil sets of LOB or just for the bigger cards like the big three, Red Eyes, Blue Eyes, Dark Magician. Also the starter decks as well, Dark Magician, Blue Eyes White Dragon. And I thought I'd make this video just to kind of go through the basics and the more in-depth aspects of what these foil lines are and kind of what there is to collect within them. Just because there aren't a lot of videos out there about them, even though it's becoming a more popular topic, a more popular kind of card to collect. So yeah, that pretty much does it for this video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any other questions about foil line errors, feel free to put them down in the comments below, and I'll do my best to get back to you. And with that being said, this is Schlost signing out for now, and I hope you guys all have a great day.